September Park Board meeting to order.
Okay.
The first item on our agenda are minutes from our last meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, or omissions that anyone saw?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item we have is the Chamber with their project at Lakefront Park.
So Chamber of Commerce has reached out to city staff with an idea to do some holiday lighting down at Lakefront Park through the, well, Mary Claire is here to give a brief presentation on, just introducing the idea, getting feedback from the park board to see if they can move forward with what they're proposing. So go ahead, Mary Claire.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Claire Olson-Potter with the Hudson Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your time tonight. We are in your packet, and maybe the color, I don't know if it came through, is hopefully on yours. Oh, great. Okay. So what we are trying to do, we know this is going to be a multi-year project, so we're just trying to get a start. If any of you have been up to Duluth, to Bentleyville, or have heard of the lacrosse rotary lights in Wisconsin, or if you've seen that. Okay, they have really big budgets, so we know that we want to start somewhere, but the Lakefront Park is just a beautiful park, and that we'd like to be able to utilize that and bring folks down there throughout the year. We know in the spring and summer it's very busy, in the fall with the Spirit of St. Croix, so we thought let's extend that into the winter. So we have some ideas about doing some lighting and maybe some of the trees that are currently there, bringing in a larger tree for the band shell, and doing some other lit decorations that are noted in the materials that you have in front of you. And this will be funded by donors that we are recruiting and volunteers that will help to put all of those up. So we want to work in partnership with the city, but we are not relying on the city for funding or for Mike's team to help implement all of that, but we would look to them for guidance as we would move forward. But we're excited about the possibilities. We do have some funders already that are interested in participating, and if you have any questions or thoughts or suggestions, but would look forward to your support. Again, we would start small this year and then build upon it each year.
The packet was pretty complete as to what you'd like to accomplish, and I think it looks really good. I mean, it would be a nice addition, especially as it grows, but even starting out.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned like up in Duluth, I know that there's a fee for that. Is this going to go to that, or
Well, we know, right.
participants to walk through or drive through or whatever?
Right, and we've talked with Mike about a letter of agreement that would be between the chamber and the city, and we know that we don't charge for events down there, so we've talked about, would we do a donation, a food donation or something, but I think for the first year, just because we're getting started,
Right.
I'm going to be really happy if we get a tree in the band shell and get a couple lights down there. So, I'm happy if we start with that, but just a starting point, because years ago, there used to be decorations in the band shell. And it was just kind of nice on the cold winter when you drive by. There's all a little life down there, but I think if we add the light piece and do some of that, that'll just enhance it even more.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea, Mary Claire.
Thank
I
you.
love the focal point in Lakefront Park, and I love the idea of just starting small and continuing and see where it goes. On the logistics side from the city, would we have to have like portable restrooms or something like that? Or do we have any sense of like things that we might need to add on our end as it goes or something?
As it continues to grow, it's something that we'll look at, absolutely. But I think for tonight, what I put in the issue sheet was just for the park board to direct staff to develop an agreement, a local government agreement between the chamber and the city, spelling out kind of everything, who's putting up the lights, who's taking them down, who's paying for the electricity, when are we taking them down, when can they put them up, so on and so forth. What can they have, what can't they have, spell all that out.
Okay.
And I think, seeing that's going to be fairly small this year, I think between this park board meeting and the next park board meeting, Mary Claire and I can work on some of those details, get a draft agreement together for your review and get you to approve it. But for the sake of this meeting, is just to, basically give thumbs up to the idea and direct staff to.
Does it have to go to public safety as well? I'm just saying, not that you may have to in that
Right.
process as well.
On the road, maybe.
Yeah, we probably will.
So Mike, are you looking for a motion tonight? Well, I would motion to approve the preliminary concepts and direct staff to develop the local agreement with Chamber of Commerce for the Lakefront Park lighting display.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion, or anybody have any other questions before we vote on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Great idea, Mary Claire.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your
For the
support of
success of
this, and look forward to seeing you down in Lakefront Park, even if we just have one tree or something. We'll have something.
Next item we had was our impact fees of
Right.
moving to that kind of a system from
Yeah.
dedication fees that we get
So-
now.
Yep, so currently, there's a park dedication fee that any new building needs to, or is required to pay, and it goes into a fund, and that fund is separated, north of I-94 and south of I-94. And so, there's a park dedication fee that we currently have, and then there's a park impact fee, and they're actually different. And there's some advantages to having a park impact fee. They're not as restrictive as a park dedication fee. However, in order to do that, you need to have a study done, which tells the state, and the state requires it, it's state statute, you need to identify projects that these monies are going to be going towards. You need to justify what you're going to be charging, new development, new construction. You can't just pick a number out in there and just say, we're charging $5,000 per home. It doesn't work like that. So there's a process that needs to be followed. Well, what's kind of driving this is the utility department is doing impact fee study for their water and sewer. I brought it up forward to the Public Works Committee. We're going to be doing an impact fee study for transportation issues, especially when it comes to like pedestrian traffic, that type of thing. And this is just a natural thing, knowing that a lot of our park dedication fees that we currently, charge, a lot of state statutes have changed, and this is just a good time to piggyback on the utility department and do it in cooperation with them and save some monies in that regard. So this is kind of, I just want to read this, so staff had a couple of consulting firms come and give presentations to the city as far as what they can do, why they do it, give us a brief kind of overview of impact fees. And I reached out to one of them and just wanted to kind of clarify the difference between the two, just in case you have any questions. So I'm just going to read this. It says, a park dedication fee is similar to a park impact fee, but there are some differences. A park dedication fee is imposed under Wisconsin Statute 236 as part of the subdivision plat approval process. It can only be used to pay for the cost of land acquisition and initial site improvements, so grading, landscaping, utilities, sidewalks, restrooms, playground equipment, right at the initial site improvement. Okay. So a park impact fee is imposed under Wisconsin Statute 66.0617, which has more specific requirements for how the fee is calculated and used. Impact fees are charged at the time of building permit, so you get the revenue later in the process, but that also allows you to charge the fees to redevelopment projects, not just new subdivisions. And impact fees may also be used to pay for a wider variety of park facilities because of the language in the Wisconsin statutes, so it doesn't limit your initial improvements. So there is a reason to go towards this, and in fact, I know this has been a discussion for a number of years. There's some memos dating back to like 2012 between our attorney, Neil Soltis, our previous financial director, to look at this impact fee at that time. So it's just kind of a natural progression. I think it's a great time for the city to move forward with it.
Yeah, I think it fits really well with what they want to do, and especially as it ties into, we're redoing the city's 10-year long-range plan, we're doing our long-range plan.
Yep.
But basically, as a park board, the city's out of dirt. With the Atwood property coming on, so now with infill and redevelopment that's going to happen in other places, it allows that to be tied into this as well.
Yeah. And so the number that we got from the consulting firm for just the park portion was $3,156.33. And there is some funding remaining from the Carmichael corridor study that we would use. That's what my recommendation was for the transportation portion, and then this portion as well. Of course, it goes to finance committee and council for ultimate approval, but that's what my recommendation is at this time, to use those remaining funds from that, since that study's kind of closed up right now.
So somebody want to move what he said?
Yeah, but just a question for, so the 3,000, as I understand it, that's, that's the park portion, and then there's other portions that Trilogy would be getting, right? It's a bigger package that the city's doing with Trilogy.
Correct, yep. So
Okay.
like a park portion is 31, the transportation is 31.
Got it.
You know, utility, water. so
Because
on and
it's, for all the information in the study, it'd be a lot of information for $3,000.
Yeah,
Sure would.
I want to make sure that I'm reading that correctly, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would move to approve the coordination of implementing the impact fee study with Trilogy Consulting for future park improvements.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion, or anybody have any other questions on it? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. I think that's going to be a good
yeah, it's needed, very much needed.
tie into everything else.
Yeah.
Unfinished business, we have the Buckeye Garage.
All right, so this is a carryover from last month's meeting, which we didn't have a quorum at, but I wanted to discuss because it is an important piece moving forward with the lakefront and just the city in general. So, Park Board directed staff to have an appraisal done. We contacted J.C. Norby and Associates out of Eau Claire. They came over in July, and they gave they did an appraisal, met with me, walked through the building, took a bunch of photos, so on and so forth, and did an appraisal on the building. In this issue sheet, you can see that the market value that they gave was $90,000. And what's important about that number is because the building is within the floodplain, per FEMA insurance regulations, you can only improve the building 50% of the value, okay? So they don't, and the reason they do that is because, they're having these buildings in these flood areas, and they're constantly having to pay insurance monies on them, especially with all the flooding that's been happening. And so they're really limiting what you can do to those structures in those zones. So, in your packet, so FEMA, they have the 50% rule, and it's substantial improvement. So that substantial damage, it doesn't include normal maintenance, so like painting, replacing a roof. But when it comes to foundation repairs, that's not included in normal maintenance. So, and I know on kind of the well portion of the building, the newer portion,
Where it needs to be re-tuck pointed in there?
right, there's also some foundational
I
sinking.
think that's foundational tuck pointing.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be something that would count towards that 50%, and that, just by doing some other projects with foundation repair, I mean, you're gonna meet that in a hurry. So the other thing, so there's that. The other thing is there's exemptions. So there's exemptions from FEMA for historical structures. And from what I could find, or I couldn't find anything that Buckeye has been deemed historical, even though it is, like Pat said, one of the
It's the
oldest.
oldest building in the city of Hudson right now.
So there is that.
The only other one that's as
Yeah.
old is across the street, the old Buckeye Hotel, other than
Yeah.
that.
So there is that avenue that, staff could explore to have an exemption, and then we could do whatever we want, for improvements or repairs to that building. But you have to keep the external structure the same. You can't get historical status and then all of a sudden you change the whole external, appearance of the building. So there's that to keep in mind as well. So
And I challenge their evaluation that they came up with.
Norby?
Yeah.
JC?
I think they picked a number and then put the facts together to substantiate it. No offense to them, but you guys, what would you think?
Yeah.
90 grand for that building, you'd buy it. Where it is, on the waterfront, where it is, even though it's in the flood, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't, if we were trying to do something to bend or sway to an individual's advantage, so that you could do something there, it's different in my mind than we're trying to do something for the betterment of the whole community in the city, right? That we're doing something I mean, the building's been there forever. We just want to make sure it stays there forever, and to be able to use it
Yeah.
for stuff. And we aren't going to go for a big insurance claim,
Right.
on it if something happens to it.
Yeah. So, that's a good point. Use. I mean, has there been discussion in the past on I know the lakefront vision study was done. Was there any discussion on that building as far as the uses?
There were some. There was one, the sailing school has always expressed an interest in wanting it if the city didn't use it as a garage. But they were looking at it partially for storage, but there was also talk of taking the main garage bays, if you will, and making that more of a multi-purpose space. So let's say mom's group wanted to have a afternoon down there, they got the playgrounds and everything behind, there's a room that it could take place in. Or if it's rainy and the sailing kids can't do it outside, well, they can have their classroom for the day inside. Those kind of uses for it, that would be something that could be coordinated through the office, just like a pavilion up in Prospect or in White Camp. Or
So when we redo the outdoor rec plan coming up in 2020, is that the time to look at that structure and make a definitive course or a course of action for use in the future? Or how?
Yes, because that'll tie directly then into how impact fees are used.
Right.
In being able to do those. It'll also, the direction things are going for grants and the like, if it's in our park's long-range comprehensive plan and it's in the city's long-range comprehensive plan, then you can do things. Good example of what wasn't before that came about would be pickleball. 10 years ago, when the city did its comprehensive plan, the parks did, pickleball wasn't a game. Or if it was,
Not very
people
popular,
didn't know about it.
Right.
So we could take dollars that weren't, or areas in the park that weren't in the master plan and add pickleball to it because it was something new, not done at the time that the master plan for the park was done. Whereas, you know, it would have been difficult to use those funds without it. But now, the direction we're going,
Yeah.
it can, if that makes sense.
So, I mean, what direction do you want to give me? Do you want me to get a second appraisal on that building? Do you want me to look at historical status? What do you want? How do you want me to proceed with that structure down there? Because we know that we want to keep it, right?
Yeah.
It's a really neat building. It's really important to the city of Hudson. It's a landmark, right? So we want to keep it and use it to the best of our ability. But, you know, we got to be able to make it usable for any group to go in there. I want to make sure that it's, you know, it passes all the codes and, you know,
Oh, absolutely.
it's safe to utilize and everything like that. So, I mean, it's going to take a little time, but, you know, do we go the historical status route, or do I try to challenge, like Pat said, challenge the,
Well, let's figure out what it's going to cost us to do what we want to do first.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is part of what we're thinking is, if I'm remembering back to a few months prior, we were talking about bathroom improvements
yep,
first, right? That was kind of where we started saying, hey, we got to get the building appraised and we have to, right?
yep.
So do we have any sense of like what that would cost to upgrade those restrooms?
So, yeah, we were going to do the bathroom upgrades this summer, but with the high water,
Sure,
we just didn't, you know, we
Sure.
put it on the back burner and just going to carry it over to next year. But, you know, we're estimating between 15 to 20,000, probably 10 to 20, by the time you do all new, you know, the plumbing, new urinals, toilets, partitions, paint, so on and so forth, lights type thing. Because, you know, we want to keep, that's, you know, our only public restrooms on the south point, on the south, you know, picnic
Right,
point.
right.
So that's really important to do.
And that would count against our ceiling, right? Our $45,000 ceiling?
Yeah, there's a little gray area there. I mean, that's,
Forgiveness or permission?
Right.
right, you know, that's, to me, that's normal maintenance on the
Yeah.
current structure.
Yeah, because we've already got bathrooms down there.
Right, we're not building.
You're not
new.
adding to them, you're
Yeah.
just updating them. So talking to Dave Schofield from SEH, who I've been in contact about this building and kind of this process, he said that, you know, you could probably slide with doing those improvements, not having it count towards your dollars. So, that helps.
Yep.
That helps.
That helps.
Then once my mind goes to, if we know what it's going to cost to do what we want to do, then let's go the easiest way to accomplish that.
Okay,
Historic is something I think we are going to want to do regardless. Because that opens, one, it protects it, but two, it may open us up to being able to get grants or things like that we
Right.
aren't necessarily aware of now without it.
sure.
But I don't know that that has to be the first item, you know what I mean? If you can get the bathrooms and that stuff done, and and going that direction at the same time.
Okay.
Does that make sense, again?
Yep. So I guess what I'm hearing from the board is basically chart a plan to get the building so it's usable, right? Reach out to some contractors and get them in there and say, this is what we're kind of want to do, and give us a price to get us to that point. And then based upon the numbers that we're getting back, we'll kind of determine which way we go.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
And that would be basically a safe and tuck pointed, not falling off, bricks falling off, but just a shell of the building, right? We're not looking to add interior walls or,
Right.
Not
You know,
just
any-
until,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. And, as far as from a public works aspect, we had operations out of there, but because of the high water and just having to deal with that the last couple of seasons, spring and summer, we actually moved all of our stuff out of there and up to Ward Avenue, and that's where we're operating out of right now. And I don't foresee us ever really going back down to that location.
and they heated it.
Yep, they did heat it, so,
We're gonna wanna continue that, just so it doesn't freeze. Over the winter, regardless of what we do.
So I guess maybe, so it won't be, you don't need it for a storage room for public works anymore? Okay.
no, we've been just utilizing it later this summer when the water is actually
Yeah.
away, just to redo some picnic tables on a rainy day or, that type of thing. But other than that, nothing real heavy operational out of there.
So maybe, what I'm thinking is maybe just continue to vision. I don't think we have a real clear vision of what we want that building to be right now, today.
Okay.
But I think if we continue the conversation, I think if we can get the bathrooms upgraded, number one,
Yeah.
that would be a great thing for the public. And then I think as we vision and kind of continue the conversation, maybe for on and off for the next few months to try to figure out, and maybe with some public input to figure out what would be great space for that. Like you said, there might be the sailing school or somebody else who wants it or something. But we can, once we know basically the vision of here's what we want, that's going to help us a lot with the costs and the routes to go. So I think I would just favor working on the bathroom piece first and continuing the conversation about what do we want that space to be. Does that make sense?
We make it part of our long-range plan.
Yeah.
But I think it's a building it's an attribute
Yeah.
to the park that's worth going after and
Well,
maintaining.
and it's in a great location. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great location if we can figure out how to use it,
Yeah. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm good with that.
Project updates, the goats,
Goats.
Munch Bunch.
Yep. So they're still coming back. They were pulled here probably late August. They were doing too good of a job. So a lot of the new growth that was coming, they weren't letting it get high enough, and they were, so she pulled them out to kind of let the buckthorn grow back just a little bit, and then they're going to go through it one more time. So they'll go through the 8 acres 3 times throughout the summer and fall. So
Good.
yeah, so that's cool. 3rd Street steps, there was some momentum to, the Public Works Department removed the old steel 3rd Street steps. Public Works Committee looked at putting them up the hill towards the well. A little more cost efficient. There wasn't as expensive to do. However, Public Safety thought that it was too close to those turns, so on and so forth, so they would like to actually see those steps be replaced where they were. And so it's kind of on a hold right now.
Okay.
Just because the funds aren't there. I know when Tom Zuli was still here, they were tossing around numbers, or about $100,000 to
Yeah,
replace.
but you could get,
I know, yeah, the fire,
you can get fire escapes, stairways.
yeah. But the
And they-
engineer has to sign off on it, that's the thing,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, we can look.
but you don't have, they were under $5,000.
Right,
If it's safe enough to put on the side of a building and pass code for doing that, why spend all that money to have something,
right.
some wheels are best left round. Yeah,
so that's that. Walnut Street improvements, Public Works Committee and Council passed, basically gave me authority to go out for bids to improve Walnut Street from the arch to the Walnut Street Bridge. I'll be opening up bids this Thursday, and see what the bids come back at, and if we're gonna proceed this fall yet to replace that stretch. Working with some of the events that are going down there, the excursion boats, what else? There's a big chamber event that happens in the fall every year.
Jason,
Art festival.
Art Fest.
The Art
St.
Festival.
Art Festival.
Spirit of St.
Spirit
Croix.
of St. Croix,
That's it. So we're having to be mindful of that, but we'll see what the numbers come back at on Thursday. And then finally, Grandview Park Facility, this is kind of a carryover from the last park board meeting as well. Council rejected all the bids because they were coming in, the lowest bid came in $80,000 over budget. So we rejected all the bids, and basically I met with the architect. We're going to change some of the materials that they were using, change some of the concrete work, and we're going to rebid in January for a spring construct on that facility. So we'll just carry over the bond money to 2020 for that project. So that's all I have. And then finally, no, go ahead. That's all I have for project updates. If anybody has any questions on those or wants to know anything else, let me know.
We've got a whole bunch of people here for some,
St. Croix Sailing School.
Well, I think that's Excel.
It's coming up.
open to general comments on the part of the general public. Please just state your name and your address, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Lars Loxine. I live at 115 River Street. And the reason I'm here is because of the soil mediation that's along, I don't even call it the St. Croix or the tributary. I've heard word that they want to put a bike path in there, but I haven't seen any documentation. And so what I did is put a summary together explaining why we shouldn't put a bike path in that location. It's a lot of information, and I don't think this is the time to go through it right now. I think you should read what I have, respond back. It pertains to the bike path. There's a propane or gas substation there. There's a blast zone, and the bike path goes right to, it's River Street, and there's no sidewalk. There's nothing there. So I'm real concerned about what you guys are planning for that area. Does anyone know about it, or? Okay.
I'm just waiting to you were finishing. I can try and explain what. Since the time that the city cleaned up the Luke Key oil site across the street and the garages there, it's been part of the city's plan with Xcel Energy that if they ever wanted to dispose of the property on the other side of the St. Croix Street, that the city was interested in it. And at one time, and this goes back to when Gordy Anderson was the NSP, public relations rep person, they were looking at selling it to the city. And then after 9/11, when everything tightened up on trespass going out to the swinging bridge and anything on the railroad's property, that put a halt to anything being looked at or taking place down there. And then it came up again about 2 years ago with Xcel that they don't want to sell the property to the city because of, we all know what are in the ground there for soils from when it was a roundhouse and everything dating back to the old railroad days. But they are instead going to give the lease to the city for $1, I believe it is, for 100 years with a 100-year option on it, so that the city can use it as parks. Part of that ties into the funding that came through with the new bridge was dollars for bicycle trails to link up so you can bike the entire thing. And so part of the plan has been to be able to get people through Lakefront Park, off of Second Street, through Lakefront Park, up to that end, and then how do we get them on bicycle through North Hudson without putting people in harm's way. So while that has been going on, and you can test where we're at now, came up with the Black Railroad Bridge that's above Big Dam is coming to the county. And still, is it not from the county, then ownership will be shared between the county, township, and the village in North Hudson and the city of Hudson as soon as they get everything all figured out. But the part of the plan that the bicycle people have then in their group planning is to have the bicycle route come into North Hudson, come up Riverside Drive, come the old railroad bed, cross over Big Dam there on that railroad trestle, come through, come up going east, come up the hill, cross over by the city garages there, and connect into the rest of the trail to go all the way around. That's their long-range goal of wanting to do things.
Well, the railroad company's not going to sell you the land.
It's already
to
being
get
done.
across.
It's already
To get
been
across, how are you going to get across?
done. Get across where?
The railroad tracks from North Hudson to Hudson.
Two places. One, you mean at the bridge, at the dam, or a foot crossing up by the city garage? At the end of...
Got to get across the tracks. Are you going underneath on
No, at the
Second
city
Street?
garage. Yeah, but above ground crossing.
None of this had been mentioned or even discussed. You're actually going to put a footpath up above?
No, it has been discussed by a lot of different groups around the community for some time. Now, I would say I'll take blame for that maybe as parks we haven't talked about it that much, or that it hasn't been, well, we don't really have a city paper anymore that covers things that are going on, but the Jim Weber from the city council has been very active for the last 4 or 5 years with the bicycle group on what's taking place with their whole trail system and the dollars and wanting to have that take place. That hasn't been a secret of any kind. Nobody's been trying to be nefarious and do anything.
First time I've heard it. 32 years.
Well, I can't help that. I'm sorry that that's the case. I really am. Nobody's trying to do anything bad. Everybody's just trying to make it better.
Can I ask, I'm confused on
Yeah.
where you're saying it's going to go.
The,
Because there's the walking path down along the river that comes to the old horse bridge.
yep.
Okay, then from there, where are you saying it's
From there, they're talking about the potential of it going from there to the end of River Street. And then the stretch that is going to have to go on Second Street, if I'm correct, is from the intersection of Second and River there, down to, it would be Division, next intersection down. Then it would, instead of going down the hill, up the hill and over the bridge, it would go back towards the old bus garage, the city garage is back there. That there's talk of trying to get an above ground walkway over the railroad tracks from the railroad, and then it would go to the west down the hill over Little Dam out to the point over the railroad trestle, over the trail trestle, the old railroad bed to Riverside Drive through North Hudson, and then I don't know how it connects out from there.
Doesn't
they have-
Union Pacific own the dam still?
I beg your pardon? I didn't-
Union Pacific, they still own the dam, correct?
The trestle bridge they do.
Trestle Bridge they own, but that's already coming to
The county-
what's the status with that now?
The county is negotiating with Union Pacific to acquire that property.
Okay.
And the village has been in favor of it?
Yeah, and it's outside of city limits, so we're aware of the negotiations, but we haven't been intimately involved with them. So the thing, okay, so I'll shed some light on this. So a lot of this stems from the city of Hudson currently doesn't have a bike and ped master plan. Okay, a bike and ped master plan is basically a document that shows community members, staff, committees, because there's a bike and ped committee, all the trails that there are in the city, all those connections that aren't there that would make sense. And so the bike and ped committee are actually going through a process right now of developing a bike and ped master plan. The stuff that Pat is talking about, there's a lot of hoops and stuff to jump through to even get to that point. Like you said, Lars, I don't even know if Union Pacific would allow a foot traffic to go over a rail. Probably not. It would have to be erased. But I mean, we're talking 5, 10, 15 years. Who knows? It might never happen.
Correct.
But anyways, the bike and ped committee are actually putting together a plan right now, and they're putting together kind of the public engagement portion of the project. So they'll be going out to the public. They'll be posting on the city website. They'll be putting stuff in the paper for people to comment on some of the proposals that they're making in this plan as far as making these connections. So for example, Hagen Street across from the post office that we just redid. Okay, we're going to try and link that trail up to the trail that's being developed in the Lee property to ultimately get down to the elementary school on the south side of town so kids can bike safely. So, there are some connections there that are missing in order to get people down there safely. So this plan would identify all those areas in the town or in the city that are missing to have a connectivity so that, a kid from the north side of the city can bike all the way down to the south side of the city without having to go on street. Now what are the chances of those being funded? That's going to be grants. This is going to take years and years and years because a lot of the infrastructure, especially in downtown Hudson, really narrow roads, boulevards with trees, there's not a lot of options that, available. So, it's not like we're going to have trails all over, but where we can find those key connections is going to be, just improve the trails and the livability, walkability of the city. So, the parcel that you're talking about, it was thought that it would be a natural connection as part of the North Loop Trail, as part of the Stillwater Loop Trail. But hearing from the residents, I've been copied on the emails that you sent out. We're really backing off. We want to get the community's input. If it's not a right place to put it, then we can figure something else out. But what I want to do is when I'll talk to the Bike and Ped Committee, because that's kind of out of the Community Development Department, they had that committee. I'll make sure that they have your name and number, and then they'll contact you as far as get your feedback on, well, what else? At least so that you can tell them why you don't want it. We'll look through your documents and
I've
everything.
documented pretty much
Yeah.
all.
Because part of our master plan has been all along to on the south side of St. Croix Street, where the buildings are now that the rowing club is using, is for a pavilion to go there.
Right.
The size of what we have out in
See,
White
no
Canyon.
word has been brought up on any of this stuff.
That's
until now.
That's been in our planning.
There's
Deb,
no-
how far back?
There's been no public notice or information
It's
whatsoever.
been part of our planning for over 20 years.
There's no public information on that.
Sorry, but yeah. It's in our minutes, it's in the city staff. All you got to come up and ask.
Has it been in the paper?
Over the years,
Yes, because none of us knew about it.
yeah, and everyone, the city, go back, Tom Zulli, Hank Paulson, proceeding, has been aware of the soils that are down there. Our agreements when we did the Lukey property on the south side restricted how the soils can be opened up, like for footings are possible, but basically nothing other than that. Its
I'm fully aware
concept
of,
stages was on the south side then where the transformers in the substation used to be, that we know those soils are where the old roundhouse used to be, that was intended at most to be a parking lot to encapsulate and cover. And there was talk before of the urban forest group being able to then do a census on what's on that property for trees and tie it into how it can be hooked into school projects and the like to take place with the habitat that's down below there and the like. But it's all part of what is, back to what you've heard some of in today's meeting, is how do we look forward to the next 10 or 15 years of planning so that we can have things in the plan now so that when dollars and timing come together, we're able to do some of those things, because it all has to tie back into the plan in order to be available to do. But nobody has been trying to keep anything secret from anyone. It's been right out there. Even to the point that your neighbors across the street have been aware of it, because conversations were taking place between them and the city to try and look out for their access in the back for their garages and the like, that they were using an alleyway that wasn't on their property. And Excel was talking with us and them about that for the last year. So it hasn't been, I mean, we're truly not trying to be Snidely Whiplash here, coming in and doing something bad in the neighborhood.
Well, it's a real quiet neighborhood, and you're going to develop a path. There's going to be parking along First Street and River Street. You're increasing the parking problem that we're having right now. With the path, what I heard is that you're putting the pad down right now for a trail. Is that correct?
We pulled it.
You rescinded that then, okay.
They said to be, with their, everything else they have going, they were mobilized to do it. They could have put it in, cut it in now, the easiest. But it was said no at this point.
You also have a major problem. You got a substation, propane or gas substation there. That's under 200 PSI. And I did the calculations, and you need 65 feet. It's called a blast zone in that area. It's in the documentation. You can't get a path through there without going through that blast zone. So you got to look at different avenues on what you call the bike trail. St. Croix Street's wide enough right now that you can put a bike trail on. 35 is going to have a bike trail on it already. They're already planning for that. So I don't understand why you have to make this bike path going right to a street that has no curb, no sidewalk, or any of that nature. A bike trail downtown should be a pedestrian trail. It's not a bike trail. The whole thing along the river is a pedestrian trail. So I think you really need to rethink of what you're trying to do here. I think that area, if you're going to do anything, is to make it a sanctuary for waterfowl and things of that nature. It would be far more advantageous for the city if you have some kind of a natural park right downtown. I think it far exceeds the bike trail. So, but anyway, you have my name. Keep me informed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larson.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to?
Hi, my name is Christina Gorbatenko-Roth, and I live at 1218 First Street. And that's my husband, Charlie. He came in with his biking gear on. I bike down here as well. Huge bikers love the idea of being able to bike everywhere in this town. But as Lars was saying, when we bike on that trail, there's people walking all the time. That's really not a bike trail area. A bike trail area, especially if you want to get around the city into Stillwater, is more usually on the road. And I'm totally supportive of that. I just want you guys to take that into consideration, that having a lot more bike path or travel, even on the bike path there, is going to cause more potential accidents. And I'm also for it for biking. I think it's great. And then just to clarify, you said at this point, they're not putting in the path, or they are putting in the path? I couldn't hear.
At this point, there's no path plan to be installed as part of the Excel Energy project.
Do you have any idea when that decision will be looked at again, so we can be we can now be informed and make sure that we come to the meetings and get involved in that discussion.
I mean, it won't happen anytime the remainder of this year by any means. So,
And how?
like I said, the Bike and Ped Committee, they're looking at putting together that plan.
That'd be your place to go.
That would be the place.
That would be your place to go.
Okay,
is the bike
and when,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Check
have
with the
that.
city staff. and they
Community,
can tell
Community
you.
Development Department.
okay.
Yeah, when it would be, that would be the place.
Yep.
Definitely be
Okay.
the place to.
And as long as I have a microphone, I totally think the waterfall area would be fantastic. If you've gone down there in the winter and the spring, we're getting amazing waterfall through there. And that would be a nice thing to bring people in to see as well.
Absolutely.
More so than a bike path, I think.
Well, I think there's more,
A bike trail at that
people have
point.
been spun out, for lack of a better word, over the bike path and myopic to everything else that has been looked at or talked about going in down there. And I think you'll find that that is the overall goal now, to that whole area from there all the way through to the dams to be cleaned up and utilized more. And like if you've lived here any time, you've seen the changes in Lakefront Park and the bike trail as they were improved and you brought more activity into it. You had the right kind of activity. We don't have problems with graffiti, with crime, with drugs, with the problems we used to have. And from everything I think we've seen and heard, people have been real happy with the way things have turned out so far in Lakefront Park and in the other parks that we've tried and done, and we're going to try and do the same up there and make it nice for everybody. Truly, I mean,
I believe.
and the residents up there, I mean, you've got just as much say in, it's your backyard too. You know, so I want you to feel that you have the ability to.
Well, it's nice to know where we need to go to get information moving
Yeah.
forward as far as, so, thank you. So it's called
Yeah.
the Bike Path Committee?
Bike Ped Committee, yep.
Like I said, we're not trying to push anything down anybody. It's all been stuff that has, like Mike was saying, there's other committees and people have been talking about as parts coming together for things. And this has been something on that piece of property with Excel that we've been trying to get, if you will, tied up to the city for years.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions around any of that? Please come to any of the meetings, or if you have questions, feel free to contact me or Mike or Debbie at the office with questions, because, you know, it's your town.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not our town. I mean, it's all of our town, but I mean, it's your backyard, and
Yeah.
we've got to get out of here for the planning commission meeting. Is there anything else?
No, just item for future agendas. I have the St. Croix Sailing School lease renewal. That's the only thing I could think of. If you think of anything else between now and the next meeting, I'll have the draft agreement with the chamber on there. If you think of anything else, just let me know. So.
Okay.
Sounds good. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Motion carried.
Thanks, Sean.